Hello and welcome again to Horizons. I'm your host, Don Moore. This is a public affairs program of Ohio University's Southern Campus. And it's being produced by the students here on the Southern Campus in the electronic media program. Today we have a very special guest, and they want to talk to us today about some of the things that we face on the highways and some of the things that we may be doing that we might need to be correcting while we're on the highways. We have a couple from the Ohio State Highway Patrol, and that is Sergeant Spocky that's with us today, and also Trooper Hall. And they want to talk to us. We're going to talk about several things. We're going to talk about distracted driving. We're going to talk about school bus safety, because now that is very important. That's going on right now, and also about impaired driving, and maybe get into some of the issues with drugs and things of that nature. But first of all, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Name's Brian. First name's Brian. Born and raised in Logan, Ohio. Still reside there. I've been married to my wife Lindsay for 25 years. 3 wonderful children. Kylie, Jaden, and Dylan. Oldest one's married, lives in California. I've got another daughter that goes to the main campus, Ohio University, and my son's a junior in high school. Graduated in 2004 from the Ohio State Highway Patrol Academy out of the 142nd class. Started my career in Lancaster. Went to Athens for a while, Chillicothe, before moving on to criminal interdiction prior to taking this spot in Ironton as a sergeant.
Okay. And you're here in this post, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Trooper Hall, you want to share a little bit about yourself?
I do. I've been with the Highway Patrol now for a year. Last September, graduated with the 162nd Academy class. I reside in Wheelersburg, Ohio, with my wife, Abigail, and our son, Anderson. Like I said, I've been on for a year. So.
Okay, all right. Something that's very important is distracted driving. And why is that so important? Why is it that I know that there was a media campaign right now that's getting ready to start about distracted driving. But like y'all were telling me before the show, it's a problem all the time, not just this month.
It is. I mean, there's a lot more people taking to the roads. People think what's the first thought that comes to people's mind when they think distracted driving? They think cell phone usage, and that is a huge problem for us, texting and driving, but just anything that takes your eyes off the road, whether you're eating, someone putting makeup on, messing with the radio, just any distractions inside your car, even just daydreaming going down the road. If you think about it, driving's really a complicated task. Doesn't seem like it because we drive every day, but you've got to know your surroundings, and you're using the steering wheel, checking the mirrors, checking your blind spots, how much gas to give it, how much brake to give it, and then when you see a hazard, your brain's got to tell your foot, to hit the brake. There's a second and a half there. So people just start doing things that take their mind off the road, because you get confident when you do something just over and over and over that, you're not going to have any problems. And then you get a little too confident, your car drifts off the road, hit a tree, drift over the center line. Of course, then you've got other oncoming traffic and things. So it's a huge problem for us.
It just takes a second. I didn't realize, I was sharing with y'all before the show, I do a lot of traveling between here and Athens, where I work with ESPN Productions up there. So, whether it's going up in the afternoon or coming back, midnight or after, I'm coming up and down 93 a lot.
Right.
I happened to have a rental car the other day that was, it corrected me a lot. Yeah. I'm driving along, and if I just barely touch a yellow line, it would start, an alarm would go off, or hit the white line, alarm would go off. And it was daytime. I was wide awake.
Right.
I might have been eating some French fries and things. But I didn't realize just, how easily you can be over on the line without realizing it,
Right.
So, Trooper Hall, it's more than just texting.
It is more than just texting. A lot of the things that we see in this county with distracted driving have to do with crashes. Most of the crashes that we see down here occur in about a 1.5 mile span on the highway on 52, down between Lowe's and then the last intersection before you get to the 17th Street Bridge to take you into Huntington. A lot of that is caused from distracted driving and people getting I don't know if the word is anti, but maybe not paying attention to exactly what's going on in front of them. Like Sarge said, it only takes a split second for you to look down, and next thing you know, the car in front of you stopped and you rear-ended them. A lot of the crashes that we see down there that corridor of road are rear end crashes that could have been prevented if you'd have just kept your eyes on the road. So also what we see with distracted driving is we see driving that mimics impaired driving. If I could, you'll see that people will be doing something in their car. They may have reached down to get something. They're texting and driving, maybe listening to something or doing something like putting makeup on. You see them driving, from one side of the lane to the other. It looks like it's impaired driving, but it's not. We'll stop a lot of cars, and you think that the driver will be impaired. And you start talking to them. They were talking to their, texting their boyfriend, their girlfriend, something like that. So, like Sarge said, keep your eyes on the road. You're driving a very large object down the road at 55, 60 miles an hour. It's a great privilege that we have to be driving. So,
is there anything that we could do to make ourselves more aware?
I mean, just
practice?
Yeah, it really is. It's practice. I mean, we really need to focus. Like I said, we get confident when you practice things and you feel like you're perfect at it. So in turn, that makes you start taking more chances and things like that. Oh, I can take my eyes off the road. I can keep it straight, keep it between the, keep it in the lane. But in that time, a deer runs out in front of you. You look up, there's a deer, you swerve to miss the deer, and before you know it, your vehicle's on its top. There's distractions that can pop in the roadway at any moment. I mean, there's just animals. I mean, I've had people that say they, swerve to miss a rabbit. It's just your eyes aren't on the road and you look back and there it is. And it's like, oh my goodness. And you don't know how you're going to react in that situation until you're put in that situation. And so it's just practice, yes. Put your phones down, pay attention. If you're going to eat, it's better just pull over and eat on the side of the road, then take off. And like I said, driving is a very complicated task. It doesn't seem like it, but it is.
And it's funny you would say that about the animals, because when I had that car that was letting me know all my mistakes the other day, I thought about that because, I'm reaching over to get a French fry and, I'll look down just for a second, but I'll look up, I do see that animal, but if I would have been paying attention, I would have seen the animal plus the car coming toward me. Right. And if I swerve, to miss that animal, because that's the first thing, it's moving, right, left to right, or right to left, and all of a sudden, there's a semi in front of me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm like the last animal I passed that was squashed on the road,
And like I've taught my kids when I was teaching them to drive, pay attention to your driving, but look as far ahead as you can. Look 5 cars ahead. If you see brake lights 5 cars ahead, it's going to be a chain reaction. That car's slowing down for a reason. Watch oncoming traffic. You see a vehicle that's getting close to the center line, start taking some type of evasive action. Let off the gas and start preparing, okay, what am I going to do if this vehicle comes completely into my lane? To give myself the best opportunity to avoid a head-on collision or something like that. You really have to defensive drive.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Defensive driving. One of the best things that I probably ever did was I took a defensive course for motorcycles. Right. I did it because I wanted cheaper insurance, Right. But then when I got into it, I learned so much. I mean, not just about motorcycles, but now I find out, myself, like you said, watching the cars up in front. With motorcycle, you come into an intersection, you're looking for escape routes. Yes. In case somebody comes up behind you and, you want to keep it in gear so you can get out of their way, but where are you going to go? Right. And everything. And so, it made me more aware. Right. And things. Let's go from that to impaired driving. What are some of the issues we see there? Now, I want to relate to myself again, okay? Right. The other day we had an event here. We had 150 high school students here, and one of our departments here had the goggles that made it like you were impaired, and you had to walk a line. Only got a step and a half, maybe 2 steps max. Didn't realize just how bad it can be. What are some of the things that you've seen you didn't like, and it was because of that?
When I first came on the highway patrol, it was mainly when I worked midnight shift, I was dealing with alcohol impaired drivers. That trend has changed. We still have a lot of drivers that are impaired by alcohol, but we have a majority now that are impaired by opiates and even prescription medication that people get prescribed to them. It's no secret that Southeast Ohio, Lawrence County, Scioto County, there's a serious problem with opiates, just like in most counties in the state of Ohio. And what we try and do to combat that, even when I was on a criminal patrol team, we try and intercept these large shipments of drugs that are coming down the highway that are poisoning our counties. Because what happens, they bring these large shipments down, they ship them out in the counties and everyone's out buying them, then they start, and then we're driving on the road. These people were impaired on heroin, methamphetamines and everything else. And I mean, they're overdosing in their cars at a stop sign with their foot on the brake. I mean, we've actually rolled up to them and they have the needle in their arm. I mean, we've had to administer Narcan on a traffic stop before. And it is scary, the impairment that some of these people, they get their bodies to travel down the roadway. It's very scary. And Austin could probably talk more about what he's seen in this area, you know, as far as impairment and things like that.
I can. Like Sarge was saying, whenever he came on, alcohol was the drug of choice, per se. Now it's assortments of alcohol, drug, and a lot of time you have a combination of people consuming alcohol and then consuming other drugs with it. One of the big drugs I've seen a lot, especially from, I don't want to point out the younger generation, but I've seen it from new drivers all the way up to middle-aged drivers, is people using marijuana and driving. What people don't understand is marijuana is a drug and it still impairs. So I've seen a lot of marijuana impaired drivers along with a lot of drug impaired drivers as well. So,
if I'm driving down the highway, can I see the difference whether it's alcohol or drug related just by the style of driving, or is it pretty much the same?
I mean, it's pretty much going to be the same. You're going to get varying speeds. Maybe get someone that speeds up to 65 mile an hour and all of a sudden they slow down to 35 for no reason. It's like, what is this? You know, just varying speeds, obviously not being able to maintain their lanes, weaving in their lanes, slumped in the driver's seat. But it's just impairing their ability, you know, it's the reaction time that they have. You know, they drive out of their lane like, oh, they're a foot and a half over the edge line and they realize, oh, I'm out of my lane, then they jerk it back. Then by that time they're going over the center line, they realize they're over the center line, and it's a back and forth game. And
we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about impaired driving, and also we want to talk a little bit about school bus safety as well. So we'll be right back after this word.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Never gonna let you go. Never gonna let you
Welcome back to Horizons. I'm Don Moore, your host. Today we've been talking to a couple gentlemen with the Ohio State Highway Patrol about distracted driving, also about impaired driving. And we have with us Sergeant Brian Spocky. Almost got it wrong, but I got it right this time, right? And Trooper Austin Hall. And we were finishing up last segment, we were talking about impaired driving. Trooper Hall, if I should happen to see somebody on the road, what is there something that I could do? I mean, do I want to try to motion them and tell them to pull off, or what's the best thing to do?
You should not. A few things that you should do though. You need to call 911, contact the proper authorities, and if you could, stay behind that vehicle as long as you can. You know, let our dispatchers, you know, give a make, model, If you can, give the numbers off the license plate, maybe describe what they're doing, what you see. What you should not do, though, is you should not attempt to make any type of interactions with that vehicle, because if they are impaired, they may do something hostile toward you. So, keep some distance, but keep your eye on them if you see that type of actions. And like I was saying on break, we need to be more vigilant as a community. I commend people of Lawrence County because they always call. We can't be everywhere, but people that are in places that see that type of stuff, call. Don't hesitate to call. We'll get people there as quick as we can. So.
And I believe you were mentioning before that even if somebody calls and they could maybe testify in court too.
Yeah, if you would, because what happens a lot of time, there's no law enforcement around, so they don't have a care in the world. If they're texting, driving out of their lanes and everything, well, as soon as they see any type of law enforcement, their behavior changes, and they'll be driving perfect. The speed limit, staying in their lanes, but our dispatchers will typically ask for your name and your phone number and information, and we could actually take enforcement action on that, and you would be the witness that would testify in court to what you observed, and gives us probable cause to stop a vehicle based on what a witness has observed, and that has helped a lot through the years.
And what we have to do is we have to not be afraid and not feel like we're impeding on somebody else's rights, because by not acting, somebody could be killed.
That's exactly right.
And
would you rather call or keep following this person, think it's going to be okay, and then you witness something horrific that you have to live with the rest of your life?
Yeah, and let the professionals decide if somebody's doing something right or wrong, and let you all pull them over and see what's going on. So, all right. We were talking earlier too about alcohol and drugs, and within that we talked about the drugs in this area and some of the things. I know that I witnessed just here one day, a person pulled off the highway, pulled into a parking lot and shot up right there. And the person jumps out of the car and starts screaming, "Somebody's got to help this guy, somebody's got to," and then they booked. The passenger seat took off, and the other person was there and looked to be dead. Within a matter of minutes, law enforcement arrived, paramedics arrived, and Narcan saved him. But what are some of the issues that we're dealing with right here in our community?
That is some of the issues we're dealing with. You get the addicts, they have to have that fix. And they get to the point to where they're almost getting dope sick when they go buy their dope that they need. And they have to do it right in their car because they have to have it right now, instantly, because of the pain and everything they're feeling from not having that opiate in their system. And of course, fentanyl and carfentanyl's getting laced with some of this heroin and stuff, and if they get in that system, they're overdosing. I mean, they're getting bad strands of dope. That's pretty much what it is. And you have to, I never thought I'd see the day where troopers would be carrying Narcan with them on duty. But I carried Narcan as a canine handler. I carried doses for people I'd come in contact with, and I carried doses for my dog as well, if he came in contact with any of it. And times are changing, and that is what we're seeing. People, and then if they don't overdose and they shoot up, then they go out and drive the car on the roads that we're on, and their ability is very impaired to be operating a motor vehicle. You're driving a weapon when you decide you're behind that wheel, you're in control. You are driving a weapon based on the decisions you make, and you'll be charged as operating a vehicle in that sense.
This, it's bad. There's no two ways about it. And it's dangerous. Yeah. It's dangerous for the people that are involved, but it's dangerous for you all. Yeah. It's dangerous for any of the first responders or anybody that comes up on them. So we need to be careful. Just looking at fentanyl. I was talking to one of your colleagues here, I don't know, it's been a few weeks ago, was talking about, I think it might have been a traffic stop or something where two people had needed Narcan. Right. But you all had to use so many doses of Narcan for them to bring them back, it used up any supplies you had for yourselves in case you came in contact with the fentanyl or whatever. Okay. dangerous situation.
It is.
I mean,
with the needles and things, I mean, when you're searching people's persons or their vehicle, I mean, these people will shove needles anywhere. I mean, I say anywhere. And you start searching around and you get stuck, and they don't put caps back on them, so you really have to be careful because that is a dangerous situation.
If there's activity in a neighborhood or in a community that somebody sees and notices, what are some things that they could look for that might be red flags that they might want to contact enforcement?
Just anything that looks, our old saying in the highway patrol, if it looks like a skunk and smells like a skunk, it's probably a skunk. Unusual behaviors. I mean, you have a bunch of cars that are coming and going, you know, various ages of people, even different states and things like that are going to one particular house, going to a certain spot, staying just briefly, the car's still running, someone gets out, there 2 or 3 minutes, back in. That's not normal. So things that, it's pretty simple. Things that don't look normal probably aren't normal.
What are some of the things that y'all are doing to try to prevent some of this? I know that there seems to be a pipeline that comes down from the north, but is there any special activities that y'all are involved in right now to try to prevent what we're seeing in our area?
We have criminal patrol teams. Like I said, I was on a drug interdiction criminal patrol team looking for crimes out on the roadway as a canine handler. And basically we would sit out there and we would read people's driving behavior. Someone who is obeying laws and not taking part in criminal activity, when they drive by you, they have normal behaviors. They look at you to see what you're doing sitting in the middle with a crossover watching them, or they continue about their business. Well, criminals are kind of like children. When your children do something that they shouldn't do and they see mom and dad, they kind of cower down like, oh no. Well, criminals are exactly the same way. They give you that adrenaline dump in that 2 to 3 seconds that we see them on the road. We call it white knuckling. They grip the steering wheel so tight when they go by, they don't want to make eye contact, slow down to 10 miles an hour under the speed limit, get right on someone's bumper. They're trying to blend in and hide. And a lot of times after they go past us, they'll drive out of the lane. They're looking in the mirror to see if we're pulling out on them. So we're reading people's body behavior as they go by, and that makes us determine, you know, whether we want to follow these people. I mean, a lot of the problems we're having here, the narcotics and opiates and stuff are coming from Detroit area and Columbus area. And they're bringing them down here just because of the amount of money they can make selling these narcotics when they get down here.
As far as it brings a lot of other crime to the area too, where people need the money, and I mean, yeah, we used to do a lot of work with the different agencies in the area, helping with videotape surveillance tapes and everything. And I remember an officer came down from Portsmouth area and said, "Well, what are y'all doing?" I said, "Well, between you and Greenup, you know, we can't get any of our work done." He said, "Well, what's Greenup got?" And I said, "Some guy stole chainsaws." And he said, "Really?" He said, "I bet that's Chainsaw Willis." And I said, "What?" And he looked at his picture and said, "Yeah." He said, "Who you dealing with at Greenup?" He called him right away, and he said, "You can find him here. He steals chainsaws and turns state's evidence and gets out of it all the time." He said, "But now we got him. He crossed the river, you know." So, but it just leads to more crime in our area.
It does.
So, all right, let's change directions a little bit, shift gears, and let's talk a little bit about school bus safety. We got a lot of school buses on the road right now, a lot of children out there. Trooper Hall, what are some things that we can do as community members when we're out driving?
I spoke about vigilance earlier, looking for impaired drivers. When it comes to safe operation of a motor vehicle around the school bus, it's a self-driven vigilance. So what we're seeing is a lot of individuals are maybe seeing the school bus and not preparing for that stop sign to come out, and they're blowing through that stop sign. That stop sign that comes out on that school bus is just like any other stop sign you see out on the road. It says stop, you need to stop.
You want to get past it before the bus stops totally?
You don't want to be that person that blows through that stop sign and almost hits a kid, or even worse, it ends up hitting a child. That's the worst case scenario. If you were to read through the law, it says that you need to stop 10 foot in front of the school bus or 10 foot behind the school bus. So if you're behind the school bus, give them about 10 foot to the rear, and if you're coming the opposite direction, you need to give them about 10 foot in front. That way they have enough room to operate. So moving from school bus, actually, excuse me, you're going to see us a lot out in this next week around school zones. Next week is School Bus Safety Week all around Ohio. So, you know, don't just to be aware of it next week, be aware of it all the time, especially when school's in session. Shifting from school buses to school zones. Anytime school zone speeds can be enforced, anytime there's activity going on around the school. So
Not just when the yellow lights are flashing.
Not just when the yellow lights are flashing. If you see kids going in the morning coming to school, we enforce. Kids out on recess, we enforce. Anytime that there's activity going out or outside the school or around the school, we can enforce the school zones. So yeah, those yellow flashing lights are a reminder, but just be aware that whenever there's activity going around a school zone, the speed limit there in that school zone is 20 miles an hour.
Okay.
So.
And talking about that as well, a lot of school zones do not have the flashing lights. So you really have to be vigilant there. Anytime you see increased activity at that school, cars coming and going, picking children up, or the buses, that people just think, well, there's no flashing lights, so I don't know, I'll just drive any speed I want through there. No, if there's activity there, there does not have to be flashing lights for the school zone to be enforced.
Unfortunately, we're out of time, and need to get you all back because I've got a couple other questions that we didn't get answered, okay? But appreciate you coming and
sir.
appreciate your service. And some things we need to watch out for is distracted driving. Watch out for the texting, the makeup, and the food. And then also we got to be very careful with the kids out there in the school buses. Thanks for being with us on Horizons. We'll see you the same time next week.
They gave me Vicodin after my knee surgery. I didn't know it would be this addictive. I didn't know how far I'd go to get more.
Opioid dependence can happen after just 5 days. Know the truth, spread the truth.
I got some Oxy after I hurt my neck. I didn't know they'd be this addictive. I didn't know how far I'd go to get more.
Opioid dependence can happen after just 5 days. Know the truth, spread the truth.